Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, coming at you from my new setup. It's actually, well, you guys can't see it, but I'm still kind of getting used to how this is. I moved some stuff around. I'm recording from a different spot of the room just to accommodate a project that I'm doing here soon. That the project needs me to have a green screen. So there's going to be lots of great stuff that I'm involved with. Not going to say too much, but super excited and just had to get lots of... Now it feels more like a studio. Maybe I'll do more in person, or not in person. Well, that too, but more video podcasts again soon. Yeah, maybe I might consider it. But yeah, so this is a nice little change of things for me. So before we start today, I just wanted to. So of course, last week I gave a little plug for a upcoming event that's coming tonight, which is Laugh Out Loud Improv Extravaganza. They are sold out. They are completely sold out. I was gonna do another plug for it, and then boom, they're sold out, which is fantastic for them. Super excited. I can't wait. I got my tickets just in time, and I can't wait for a good show. Very, very excited to see it. And yeah, so I was gonna plug it, but there's nothing to plug now because all the tickets are sold out. So very excited to see it, and break legs tonight for anyone who's involved, who is listening to this podcast right now. I can't wait to see how it turns out. So anyways, guys, moving on to what you guys all are here for, which is our guests, our amazing guest today. God, he's done a lot of stuff. Stand-up comedian. He's a content creator. He's an esports commentator for Rocket League, and he also is a podcaster who co-founded his own podcasting network called newamsterdam.com. He's an MC under DJ Flobito. And he has an upcoming comic book series called First Place Losers that the first one comes out this August. Very excited to have him on here. Flobo Boyce is his name. So me and Flobo talk about a lot of stuff. Great personality, very, very funny. I had a great time chatting with him, and hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation. Flobo, if you're listening to this, had a blast talking to you, man. Had a blast. You guys will be able to tell just by his hilarious personality and some of the conversations we have. Later in the show, I want to give my thoughts on an article that is kind of spreading for Walking Dead fans, which is something, it's a topic that's been kind of huge in the Walking Dead world, which is, of course, Glenn's death in The Walking Dead. Subject of a lot of controversy and stuff like that because of how violent it was and everything. Andrew Lincoln, Rick Grimes himself, weighs in on it. And then later in the show, I wanted to kind of go down the timeline of the whole Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and the mystery of it all, because one second I hear they're doing it, next second they're not. We're going to take a look at the timeline and find out what the hell is going on with Pirates 6, if at all. So many conflicting reports. So anyways, guys, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's podcast. All right. Hey, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran. Today, I am joined by a man who is, it's so funny. Every guest I have has like 100 titles, and this man is no different. I mean, he's a professional comedian. He's worked with some of the best in the industry. Writer, esports caster for Rocket League, among other things. Author as well, too. Flobo Boyce. Flobo, what's going on?
Man, thank you so much for inviting the show, man. I love the energy. I feel like I'm in a giant radio station, even though we're just in these Zoom meetings, but it just feels like I'm in the room. Appreciate you.
Of course. So take a wild guess. Am I in a studio or a bedroom? How professional does it seem?
Well, my dress is behind me, so I hope you're in a bedroom, or else it'd be kind of weird.
Okay, yeah, no, I am in a bedroom. Yeah, I was gonna say. I said, let's see how professional we look. I said, if I look like that, I'm in a studio, then that's a good thing. Right. But yeah, no, we tried. Luckily, it's audio only, so I could do this in any way. I could not be wearing clothes during these podcasts. I do them in the tub.
Yeah.
But Flobo, as I said you do everything. Esports caster. First off, that one there caught me off guard right there. Esports caster for Rocket League. How did that come
Yeah.
about? Because that's a big game that people still play. About what, 10 years later after it's been out?
Yeah, I think I came out in 15. So yeah, next July would be its 10th birthday. So it's interesting because I was a stand-up comedian first, and then the pandemic happened, and we were kind of just hanging out and not going outside. And I joined this senior Rocket League club called Senior Series Esports for players over the age of 30, if you can imagine that. And they were having a tournament, and they said, "Hey, look, you're a comic. Can you just like tell old people jokes while the game was going on? Like, time for your nap, grandpa, or eat some prunes, let the crap go," for example. And after that, they said, "Hey, your voice sounds like you should do this for real, for real." And I said, "Well, I dabbled in wrestling commentary. I don't know anything." Like, "Oh, what's your Discord?" I'm like, "What's the Discord?" And I just off to the races ever since then. So I got to do RLCS, which is the main circuit, college Rocket League. I'm able to do things out of state. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh wow, you're almost like a grandpa in a way. Discord, what? It's kind of
Uh,
it's kind of like Facebook. Whenever they talk with Facebook, what's the Facebook and the Instagrams and the and
yeah.
the and the Twitters, or now it's X, which I don't
Hey, I
like.
am so old. I remember when Facebook was thefacebook.com. That's how old I am.
I think it still is. People still call it that, the Facebook.
I mean, that was the URL though. It was like THE Facebook. And it was for college people only.
Is it? Is that what it was years ago? I didn't get Facebook till like the 2010, 2011, something like that. So I can't
Yeah,
remember exactly.
absolutely. I was on the platform in '05, and I was in college, and it was called The Facebook, and it was only open to college kids, and you had to have a college email address. And when they opened it up to high schoolers, they're like, "Oh, it's over. Oh, it's lame now. No one's going to hear about Facebook."
Here we are now, where it's like, well, now it's what it's called, what, Meta, or it's one of
Yeah,
that's one of
yeah,
its names.
yeah.
I can't even keep track of that now. But I mean, speaking of that, you also run a podcast network too, which is cool. I mean, kind of talking about Facebook and stuff. NewAmsterdam.com, which is really, really cool. And I love that podcasting now is almost like that's becoming the new, in a way. I think COVID really kind of helped it out, where I'm even hearing and seeing all these like podcasts, like scripted series and stuff like that, all these amazing things that are happening that I'm like, if it weren't for the pandemic, would that have ever happened? I don't think it would. So how did newamsterdam.com come about, and when did it come about?
Sure, yeah. Actually, you know what I'm saying? Radio, the first one came out right before the pandemic. But to your point, when the panty hit, it kind of opened doors for everybody. You know what I mean? Like big TV shows like Fox and NBC and everyone, we're pretty much doing what we're doing. We're in our bedrooms with the crappy cameras, with the terrible microphones, and it kind of equalized everything. And I said, well, I'm not going out anymore. I like making people laugh and making them think. And so it was like one podcast after the other. So New Amsterdam Radio was like this. I get to sit and talk to celebrities. I have a wrestling podcast, Draped in Gold. I had a Star Trek podcast called Commander's Log. I had a Netflix show. And before you know it, I had up to 9 different shows going at once because I wasn't going outside. You know?
And then also, I need to pay the bills and everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And advertising at the time was really, really heavy because all these brands had plans of moving units in real space, but it couldn't go anywhere. So the money was flowing. It was like, hey, look, man, can you please make our brand relevant? Talk about it, have these podcast swaps, have these advertising reads. And it really was a good time. I felt like I was a media mogul in my bedroom.
Which is good because like you can literally do it anywhere, and this is the new age now where people there's so many people now who work from home. Like that's a big thing now, even after COVID. Like three, it's been what, 4 years after COVID, people can still work from home. Podcasts, you can do podcasts literally anywhere, which is probably the best part about it. You're still making content, but it's a little cheaper.
Yep.
You don't need to go too extravagant with the. Do you prefer audio or video podcasts, or both? I mean, how do you take your podcast?
I, I
Feels like a restaurant. How do you like your podcast? Medium
Yeah,
rare?
yeah, medium rare, absolutely. No, I think when it comes down to my audience listening, it's definitely better to do it audio only. However, because I am a performer, it does feel cool when, say, someone is explaining something and I get to use my body as an instrument for visual gags, or I can pull up a sight gag while they're doing things and make me feel kind of challenged in that way. Because you and I both know there are some guests who are kind of boring. They're kind of they're kind of square. You're like, uh-huh, that's great. Oh, cardboard boxes. All right, that's amazing. But if you can have some time, some fun with yourself, then the artist has something to look at visually when you're doing other things.
No, exactly. And that's uh always got to find some way to keep it fresh and keep it entertaining and to keep the audience listening, because I mean, like, we're trying to keep this lively. You and I very, very enthusiastic. If it was just us going, "Hi, how are you? Hey,
Yeah,
Flobo."
yeah,
So
that's great.
you got a
Yeah,
new series coming out, hey? Huh? Isn't that
sure,
cool?
sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
really, really cool. So tell me about this. Which I mean, I do love those conversational type of podcasts too, like a Joe Rogan puberty. Sorry, like a Joe. I do that all the time. That's just
Yeah.
I'll be doing that when I'm like 70 years old.
Yeah, it doesn't
Uh,
go away. Yeah.
oh, it doesn't go away. No, God,
Yeah.
no, God, no. How old are you now? It still happens to you?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How old do I look? No, I just turned 39 last week.
Is you're
So it's
39 and you
yeah,
still voice crack, right?
absolutely. Especially when you do this for a long time, you got the you feel like you're goofy or something. But
Yeah. Yeah, gosh.
yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, Flobo, let's get to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, this is good. Jeez, what were we talking about? I don't even remember now.
Neither do I.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. This works out because you're a comedian. This is what you do. You make people laugh and stuff like that. Do you do
Yeah.
that too, where you go off on tangents as well? I know so many people and like comedians who will say, "Oh my God, I go on too many tangents." Are you kind of like that too, or how hard is it to get back on track whenever you easily get sidetracked and then you're like, "Oh fuck, where was I? I can't remember where I was."
I mean, that's a good question. So, like, when you're learning and writing your material, you have your structure for your jokes. You want to say what works, but a lot of times, the savvier the audience is, and with Netflix and Epics, people are getting more and more savvy. If it seems too recited, a lot of times that people tune out. You could be hilarious, but it seems like you're going from joke to joke to joke. It's kind of like, oh, we're watching a play, whatever. Let me get on my phone. So every so often, to make sure everyone's okay, you can do some interaction with the audience, or you can do a tag, which is basically like almost a remix of your punchline while you're doing it to make it look more conversational. And there's a lot of times where I go, oh, where was I? So when I first did comedy, I would treat it as if I was reciting a play, but now I think of it as like how a musician would have a set list. Yeah, I have these jokes and these jokes, but in between, I can tell other stories. I can say, how's everyone doing? I can do my taxes in between just to make sure that it seems a bit more fluid, a bit more natural, a bit more conversational.
Yes, exactly. Would you consider comedy like your bread and butter? Because I mean, as I said, like you do all kinds of things, and there's lots of people that I talk to where they're playwrights, they're actors, they're directors, but they're like, I want to be known for just this one thing, like acting. For you, is that comedy? Because I mean, you've done some amazing things with comedy, working with some of the greatest, like Mark Maron. You've worked with
Yeah,
Mark Aaron
yeah.
and shared the stage with him. Do you see yourself as like that's like your bread and butter, or are you kind of a hybrid?
I call myself comedy first. So I do write and I do perform. If I'm a master of ceremonies or a benefit auctioneer, I bring humor into all of that. The actual machinations of stand-up comedy for me isn't where I want to be quite yet. So I hesitate from saying I'm stand-up first. I do that as well. But I do think that whether or not I'm going to be your esports commentator or your boxing commentator or your master of ceremonies or your playwright or your podcaster, I'm going to throw some jokes in there to have a good time. Now, that door is always open for comedy to be number one. But to be honest with you, and to be honest with myself, I would say it's like 3 or 4 for me on the chain right now.
Yes, exactly. And got to splice it up so then that way, like we were talking about with podcast interviews, which is hi Flobo, how are you?
Hey,
Good. Like,
what's up?
can you imagine? Are there comedians? I'm sure there are comedians like that that are just very just hi, how are you? good, guys. Yeah, knock
Yeah.
knock. Who's there? Like,
Oh yeah, it's like music, man. There's some people that actually like that. They love the people who are low energy. They love the makes me laugh and think, or the awkward comedy, or that kind of thing. The all comedy scene is a whole other thing. I can't do it. I can do a joke or punchline like that, but if I had a whole hour and a half and it's just me, you're getting the full me. I'm sorry.
yes, exactly. You're either getting Flobo Boyce or Flobo at his Flobo Boyciest,
Yeah, that
in a
sounds
way.
kind of gross. That sounds like I got like a disease, but I got these Boyce's deposits somewhere in my system. But no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you got to go full tilt sometimes. You got to give everyone the whole show.
Boss, I'm sorry I can't come in today. I got the Boyciest.
Yeah. Oh man, take a break, take a week off. Yeah.
Oh Jesus, man. You gotta go to the hospital. I love to ask this to all comedians that I talk to on the podcast because especially in today's day and age where it's so relevant. I mean, we live in a day and age where of course Chris Rock made a joke that resulted in him getting smacked at the Academy Awards, something that we're still talking about years later.
Hmm.
We thought, oh, it's going to blow over in a week, and here we are 2 years later still talking about it. But it's still kind of relevant because uh, like how do you deal with that kind of stuff where what do I say, like is this joke that I say, is that gonna affect that person, is that gonna insult
Sure.
them, is that gonna insult so and so's mother, like how do you go about those types of jokes, especially if you're like interacting with the audience and you don't want to put them on the spot because oh geez, I don't know if he's sensitive, maybe he might come up and Will Smith me, I don't know, like how do you deal with it?
Well, okay, that is a very complex question because I do think there's a false truth that's going around saying, "Oh man, people are more sensitive now than they were before," and the answer is no. People were always sensitive. It's just that now there's platforms, right? If I'm offended, I can go online and find people who are as offended as I am and have an army. But we've been burning books and we've been putting comedians in jail for as long as we've been having comedians. You know, Lenny Bruce was arrested plenty of times in New York for doing things that were kind of crazy. So I always say, as a writer, you know when you're going way too far, where it's like that's dark even for me. But if you're on the fence, I think it's worth it to try to dance on the line and have your audience ask you to bring it back. You can always apologize later if you meant no harm. If you're going on stage and be like, the problem with these people is this, well, then yeah, you're gonna get every kind of heat and you probably deserve it. But if you think about something I think is interesting or funny that this happens, and someone goes, hey, maybe that's not for me, you can decide, hey, you know what, you need to get out of your own butt, or hey, I never thought of it that way. Thank you very much. The last thing you want to do when you're writing is go, I can't write because I'm going to offend somebody, because you're always going to offend somebody. And I'll give you an example. My first year doing comedy, just for those of you who don't see my face, I'm a black man, but I'm a black American man. And I had a whole bit about I couldn't survive if I went to Africa because it's a different cultural difference. And so the joke was really about my expense, about me, how would I fare going to Africa? And I was like, well, can you imagine me landing and asking for a Starbucks or a McDonald's or whatever? So more the most American stuff too. And I got pulled aside after a show, and the guy was from Africa. And he was like, look, I am tired of Americans making fun of us like we don't have McDonald's. And I was like, it's not about whether you have McDonald's or not. It's the fact that I'll be looking for the most American brands ever. And so when I wrote that joke, I wasn't looking to offend anybody. In fact, the joke was at my expense, but then I had to have a discussion with somebody after the show. So you're going to offend somebody at some level. The idea is that as long as you meant no malice by it, if you can justify what that meant and what you're trying to say, then I think it's fair game. And then if you do get some blowback, all you can do is let the audience decide.
Yeah, and that's all I can do because uh everything is all subjective in a way too, where people are always going to be torn on both sides. They're going to say, oh, he meant no harm, oh, you're just too sensitive, oh, he's an asshole. Like you're always going to have people like that. Like the way I see it, I've learned you're not going to please everybody. That's why there are different flavors of ice cream. That's one of my favorite sayings, because I mean, hey, everyone's going to think one way. It's kind of like how art is some people will like certain TV shows and movies. Some people won't. Some people think that it's the greatest written show ever. Some people will think it's poorly written. That's just how it is. It's just a matter, and there's nothing that you can really do to control that. How do you look at like subjectivity in the arts, basically?
I think a lot of times that it's up to the audience to pull from things. Like you can only have your experience, and you can only have what happens to you. An audience member will bring their own expectations and stuff like that. And this is why crowd work is so important because if you are a crowd work comedian, you can gauge what kind of audience you're dealing with. Now, again, you don't want to be disrespectful for the sake of. If you're doing a show and everyone is recovering from alcoholism, don't go into your crazy bender in Nashville jokes, for example, because now you're being offensive for the sake of being offensive. But if you have something that happened to you and someone goes, hey, that reminded me 15 years ago of something that happened to me, that's a different discussion altogether, where you can say, I never saw it that way, okay, or what have you. But I got to be honest with you. If you think about like paintings or music from a generation ago, those artists aren't around. And we still have our notions of whether or not we should display them in museums or take them down because sensibilities change over time as well. So it is a moving target and it will always continue to be moving.
Yeah, no matter what, things are going to change. Society will continue to change, no matter what. But I mean, talking about some of your comedy too. I mean, as I mentioned, you work with some of the greats like Mark Maron. Who else have you worked with? Some that really stood out to you, and like people that maybe that you've looked up to for years, and then getting to work with them. Like, how great of or how big of an honor was that? And are there any particular examples?
Yeah, Mark was a good one. If you're on Crockett was good too. I opened for Tony Baker here in Los Angeles, and that if you're a big the hybrid comedy, right? Doing the content to get you on tour and do your jokes on stage. I think Tony's really one of the pioneers about that. Kill Tony is in Los Angeles as well. And one of the cool things about living in Los Angeles, it is pretty much a hotbed. It's like, going into like a swap meet or a speed dating session, just hanging with people you care about. But I will say, like, one of the coolest things about doing festivals is that you don't always know who drops in as well. I mean, I know I did one in Arizona. Whitney Cummings came through, and it was a big deal because she was on TV show. So I didn't open for her specifically, but I got to say, hey, look, I shared the stage with, and that was kind of cool just to sit there and chop it up after the fact to get some knowledge. And it's kind of a deep cut here, but the first day I did comedy was August 10th, 2014. And the day after was when the untimely passing of Robin Williams. And even though we never met or crossed paths, I always felt that we had a connection on some sort because it was kind of like the similar energies of being on stage and going crazy and giving yourself to the material. So like it is kind of cool how we're kind of all star-crossed in this industry.
Exactly. Wow. Like that would have been such an honor right there of Robin Williams. Which I mean, I still think someone brought up the 10-year anniversary is coming up next month, which
Mhm.
I had to think, holy shit, I can't believe it's been that long. Like really one of the greats that there ever will be. And I mean, so many of them. I mean, like, are there still people that you wish you want to work with that you still are like trying to share the stage with? I mean, how is that process too? Getting like booking time with these people, like that's got to be a struggle too, is it?
It's funny because you're a working comedian, but you never really, if you go directly to any kind of agent or manager, especially at my level, those fall on deaf ears. But if you do the clubs long enough, you may come across someone who either knows them or the person himself. I grew up being a huge late night talk show junkie, so I'm all about that life as well. And I've seen Jay Leno perform twice here in Ferguson, once here in Los Angeles. But I've had a chance to work with Trevor Noah. I'll take it. And I say that because the first time I saw him was after he did his second Africa tour, and the first time he was in LA, first time he was in America ever. He was living in Pasadena and doing a local comedy club, and I thought this guy was funny. I was like follower number 10,000 on Twitter, and to see that guy just blow up to be the face of the Daily Show and still touring and making foreign politics accessible and understandable to my small American pea brain, I always respected the heck out of. And we're very similar in age as well. So if I had a chance to work with Mr. Noah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yes, no, he is, and he's not on the Daily Show now too. Like that's something where I mean, we have Jon Stewart back for Mondays, which is fantastic. But Trevor Noah, I mean, he did have big shoes to fill with the Daily Show, and I mean, I remember just thinking, how is anybody going to top Jon Stewart? And then Trevor Noah came along. You're like, holy shit, maybe Jon Stewart can be. I mean, like you're not going to replace him, but Trevor Noah was a worthy. And so the fact that he got on Jon Stewart's level, that's like, okay, he must be pretty damn good if
Yeah.
he's giving Jon Stewart a run for his money, then hell, that's pretty damn good.
My
which
favorite comedy special of his, I sort of jump in there, was Crazy Normal because he talks about South African politics. And I know nothing about South African politics, but after that, at the time, I kind of understood the dynamics and who the players were and the groups and the political parties. Like, oh, wow, here I am halfway across the planet. And this guy explained the whole nation's dynamic and found a way to make it funny in a way that I could understand. I go, oh, he's fine. And that's what you want to do. It's these abstract concepts we have as comics, how can you make it funny for other people? That is the bread and butter of the art.
yes, exactly. And so I mean, of course, you do the comedy, and the Rocket League too. You're also a DJ too, eh?
Yeah.
You're not just an MC, an award-winning MC. So
That
congratulations on that. So how did that come about as well?
I don't know if you can, well, for those of you who are listening, I'm sorry, but I got a couple of my awards here. I got the NYX award for one of my shows, and I also have the video award behind me for emceeing. And it is kind of like that kind of weird rabbit hole where I didn't think I would be an MC. My parents were scientists. My mom was a nurse, my dad was an electrical engineer, but just being a guy who liked to talk and being able to crack jokes at real times, it opened one door after the other. Now, DJing, ironically, is my day job. I do weddings and events and corporate events. It's my day job, but it's nights and weekends. And so being able to still be myself is worth its weight in gold. I don't have to go into an office. I don't have to wear a tie if I don't want to. I don't have to say yes or no, ma'am. I can really show up and be Flobo 24/7. And that's been completely liberating.
That's awesome. Wow. And that's really, and I mean there's a lot of work into that as well too. I mean like you do so you do any type of event like weddings, I almost said funerals.
They're called celebration of life, but yes.
Celebration of life. Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funeral's like, yeah, boy. No, I'm not playing taps and everything. No, after they bury the person, they have a party afterwards. That's what it
And
does.
another one down, and another one down, another one bites the dust.
I'm so alive. It's just
Or don't you forget about me.
awful. I'll get booked never again.
Never again.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Come to where did I see that? It was some show. It was the comedian. It was Jeff Foxworthy asked the audience. He said, "Who here has ever been to a funeral?" Or no, who here has never been to a funeral? And then one person raised their hand, and he's just like, yeah, because they're boring. He's like, of course they're boring. That's why nobody sells tickets to them. Like,
yeah,
I got
good
front row
point.
seats right next to the casket, baby. Like, it,
Fair enough.
uh, but yeah, no. So that's so. Do you have a DJ name, by the way? What's your DJ
Yeah,
name?
it's DJ Flobito.
DJ Flobito. Okay, perfect. So I had someone on here. I think it was last year. Amani Roberts. His name is DJ Amro, and he came up with his name. And basically I came up with one too. He helped me make one, where basically combined, like my last name with a character that I played in a show that was one of my favorite plays. How did you come up with your name? Like, was that kind of a similar thing?
Oh, it's kind of funny.
I
I'm
mean,
glad you
Flo
mentioned.
Bito. I mean, it's your
Yeah. Oh,
name,
okay.
but
Yeah. It's a diminutive version of that in Spanish, right? I don't speak Spanish. I'm not Hispanic or Latin, but that's what it is. It's Little Flobo, and Flobito was the name of my first car because it was like my baby. Because I didn't think I was able to have one, a car, not a baby. And I got it. So I named it Flobito, and that was my college days. I was 19 years old, thinking I was living life because I had a coupe. You know what I mean? Because most people get hand-me-down cars or they get like a beater. I had like a two-door like V6. I was living life. But later on, when I graduated and tried to launch my DJ stuff as DJ Flobo, Flobo.com was taken by another DJ in Germany. And I was like, really? Like, and so I hit him up and go, hey man, I'm Flobo. I'm here in LA. Can I have your website? He was like, nine. I was like, fine. So I named it Flobito after my car. And it worked out because here in Los Angeles at the time, there weren't many fully insured and bonded DJs that would play Latin music. And again, I'm not Hispanic, I'm not Latine, but I thought that I was a big fan of it because I am Caribbean, I am West Indian. I use that as like kind of a thing. Hey, book me, I'll play reggaeton, I play bachata, I'll play merengue in addition to what you want. And so Flobito kind of became like a sub brand. I was always honest with people. I'm like, look, I'm as gringo as they come. But if you want Daddy Yankee and a full insured DJ, I'm your guy. And of course, that's changed over time, but it kind of stuck.
yeah. You're like, hey, it works, and my name is still out there. My reputation, I'm still getting work, so why change it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no sense of doing that. That's just fantastic, like what you've been doing. And on top of all that too, you also are an author as well too. You've wrote a book, and you also have a comic books coming out as well too. Tell us all about that stuff.
Well, the book writing was interesting because I was a fiction writer for a long time, and my last novella, Pay the Vig, didn't do well at all commercially successfully. No one like even my fans were like, I don't really know about this one, and so I was about to quit. And during the pandemic, I sat there as most adults did and thought about all the mistakes they did, and I said, man, I wish someone told me about life. And so I go, I should do that. So what happened was in 2021 came my memoir called Graduation Day, where every chapter was a life lesson I learned as an adult that I would pass down to somebody, but it comes to the story of how I screwed up somewhere. Whether or not of a failed business, or me riding a motorcycle, wearing a helmet, or me not fitting in a roller coaster, or me getting lost in Italy, or me flying to Italy to save my DJ job. All my L's are in that book. And so that was the first step. But the comic book, and let me tell you this one, I'm so excited to tell you about this. It's called First Place Losers, and it takes place in a sci-fi world in the future where people race mechs like motorsport. So it's like F1 meets Gundam meets Speed Racer meets Fast and Furious. Imagine racing robots. It was like teams and pride and being able to be the best that you could possibly be. I'm so excited to be part of First Place Losers. It's coming out this summer, and the team on that is just amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's great. Collaborative effort. Do you prefer writing alone or writing with a group? Like, what do you think is better? Because I mean, writing alone, I mean, you kind of have like full creative control, but when you're working with other people, it's a team effort. You're bouncing ideas back and forth. Do you prefer both, or how do you work?
It's a different process, man. Writing it yourself, you're right. You are the end all be all. You're the beginning, middle, and the end. But the drawback of working alone is that you basically have to write everything as you can and then let people poke holes and Swiss cheese on it. The collaborative process, you get to pick kind of like your lane. For me, I was more lore building. I made sure the foundations made sense from a story level, that we broke the story correctly, and let dialogue be another person's responsibility, because then we can sit there and say, okay, if we said that line, will that relate to this? And really make sure it's as solid as possible. This is the first issue for First Place Losers. We want to be able to do many more in the future. So I like them both. I've done them both. Working solo is faster, but doing the collaborative stuff allows you to make things a little bit more richer.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I mean, just getting the feedback from the others is the best part, I think, because I mean, when you're working by yourself, you are the one who gives feedback. But whether it's, I mean, like to you, it might look good, but then once you put it on, you're like, oh shit, I should have had someone look at that. I should have like, oh crap, I should have, you know. And then that's when people start giving you the ideas. Oh, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. And so should have done that. You're like, well, fuck, why didn't I do that? Why
Yeah,
did I
yeah,
choose to work alone? You know? So
yeah.
there's so many benefits to both, to working with a group and working by yourself. So there's really pros and cons to both. But really, at the end of the day, as long as, you know, not just you're happy too, but the finished product is what it should be, which is a huge thing. You want it to be the best as possible. And so First Place Losers is coming out when
It's
exactly
coming out
again?
this summer, so the end of the summer, by August or September, we should have it ready. Where the pre-launch link is available now, so you want to get on, learn more about the process behind it and the giveaways we're doing, the Kickstarter. So everything's gonna be there too. But I can't wait. Before the summer's done, the world will be open to see First Place Losers.
I love that. Do you also, this is something too, especially where it's a comic book too. Do you write or base some of the characters off of like real life people, like real life actors, and you write them in their voices? Do you really?
So a little bit of yes or no. So Andrew Maxwell, who's the co-writer on this one, and I became motorsports fans during the pandemic. Of course, we're DTS guys. We're Drive to Survive, and I say that just being honest with you. I know a lot of motorsport guys scoff and roll their eyes like, "Oh, Drive to Survive, that Netflix show at Formula One, that's not real racing." But what I liked about that show is that they really gave us a spectacle, right? It made us feel like it wasn't just F1. It felt like we were watching a live version of Street Fighter, of how you used to fly on a plane to every different country, do your business, and leave. And so Andrew came to me and he's like, "Hey, would it be cool if we had a story where there was someone like a Verstappen, like a Hamilton, and like that?" And I go, "Well, that's great, but that kind of puts us in the box. Let's try to see if you could do something that's not as derivative, but really open the world of what it means to be in a spirit of competition for self, like the machine, versus your team, like the sport." And so it became a jumping off point. One of the characters who makes a feature in the book, the Dora Alvis, who's the antagonist on the track, she was kind of based on her physical attributes are based on an MMA fighter, but has a different personality and a different backstory. So you get to pick and choose and pull from a bunch of things to really make these characters pop on the page. And this is why I'm so hyped for it, because it's not just a one-for-one swap for Formula One. We took that and we went a whole different direction for it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And I can feel the passion from you as you're talking about this too. Like I can tell that you're super stoked for it. And so you've got more ideas for much more as well too. Hoping that this goes well, which I mean, I'm sure it's gonna, but you have plans for many more.
Oh, absolutely. We have the main story is actually going to be in the first issue, but there's a lot of things that if you're very savvy enough, you can pull on, right? We have more than one teams, more than one planets, different mech types. Ones are built on speed, ones are built on strength. Their parts can be damaged. It's a lot of things to pull from. You could probably, and hopefully crossing fingers, have issues 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the future.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Super excited to read it. So that's First Place Losers coming in August. So by the end of the summer, that's when Universal will be reaching out to you and go, we want to turn this into a film.
Let's
Or
do it.
we want to turn this into a series. So just kind of wrapping up here, Flobo, I just gotta say, first off, I mean, just amazing what you're doing, how you have so many titles, and that, like I can feel the passion from you. Incredibly funny as well too. Like even just before this, I was like, shit, I'm like, I should make sure that we actually record because we're getting some funny stuff on here already, and I don't want to lose that. Just super stoked to see how this series turns out. And do you have any final words you would like to say to the viewers? Like plug anything else you want to do? Maybe some upcoming tour dates or anything like
First of
that? Are you
all,
going on tour?
I gotta say thanks for being on the show, man. I've been on a bunch of podcasts, and this one feels like professional AF. I feel like I'm in the studio. Thousands of fans are giving me praise for that. So I mean, it means the world to me that you actually have me on your show. But yeah, man, learn more about what I'm doing over on my websites. I have a bunch of them. Newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW I have a sports comedy blog if you're interested. The lighter side of sports, we call it Just the Sandwich. That's justthesandwich.com. And hopefully I get to make it to your neck of the woods, man. I do think it's on my bucket list to see that part of Canada. So hopefully we can link up soon.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I'll pay for your ticket and everything. We'll come on down. We'll go for a drink sometime. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Let's make her happen, dude. Flobo, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. I will be back. Flobo won't be, but maybe we'll see him again at some point. He's crying.
Oh, no.
But until then, this is Franky and Flobo Boyce signing off. Have a great one, man.
You too.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cork and Entertainment Show. That was me and Flobo Boyce. Flobo, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, be sure to stay tuned for Flobo's upcoming comic book series, which is called Fight. I almost said Fight Place Losers. First Place Losers. Be sure to stay tuned for that. And thank you so much, Flobo, for coming on. Really appreciate it. So moving on to our rambling segment, or maybe not ramble, our solo segments. I kind of call it rambling segments because I do just ramble about stuff. So this can also be the part of the podcast where like, I'm just going to turn this off. whatever, do what you want. It's okay. For the first one that we're going to do today is I wanted to talk about recent comments about The Walking Dead, which is from Andrew Lincoln, of course, Rick Grimes himself, talking about basically why he thinks, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen The Walking Dead or anything like that, although I do think I spoiled this in the intro. Oh, whatever, it's fine. People, you should know what's going on here. So basically, Andrew Lincoln thinks that the death of Glenn was a little too much. And so now, first thing, I'm just going to preface this, that it is absolutely no question that once Glenn died on The Walking Dead, once he was killed off, I still remember watching it back in high school, probably that's when everybody started to tune out. Because I remember just before that, leading up to the Negan thing, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was watching the show. And then when the Negan cliffhanger happened, yeah, we were all angry and stuff like that. But we were still super excited. Like, who did Negan kill? Who did Negan kill? And so, of course, in the comics, it was Glenn. And to me, it makes sense that they kept it the same. Because, I mean, that was such an impactful death that I'm like, I mean, I don't see how you could change that. I thought there was a possibility that they would have swerved it and do just Abraham or maybe Daryl, I thought. But ultimately, they kind of had a twist there, which I thought was good. They killed Abraham. I mean, the cliffhanger, I don't agree with that. I think that ruined a lot of the tension. But the way they did it in the sense that, okay, first they killed Abraham and we're like, okay, good, like Glenn's safe kind of thing. And then, Daryl lashes out, and then that's when we get the second kill with Glenn. And, not that nobody liked Abraham, but he wasn't as beloved as Glenn, someone who's been around for the very beginning. And so there's no doubt about it. I mean, when you're getting 17 million plus viewers, like you're beating NFL in the ratings and stuff like that, that's a big achievement to accomplish right there. So there's no doubt at all that, I mean, once that happens, 17 million viewers, blah, 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 Glenn dies in that episode, most most viewed episode of The Walking Dead, period. That's when we started to see the decline, and we went from like 10 million to 7 million to 6 million. Really, when they kill Glenn, that is when The Walking Dead. Now, in my opinion, I don't think it was a bad thing, in my opinion, just because, I mean, as a fan of the comics, knowing how it happens, I thought for a while maybe they would switch it up. But overall, I think it made complete sense to just keep it the same way. I don't agree with how they went about it with, they had the whole dumpster situation. That whole thing happened beforehand, and it kind of ruined it a little bit. But anyways, the Negan death, yeah, that should have stayed the same. Like Negan killing Glenn the way he did. That was too iconic. It's kind of hard to imagine them going in any other direction with that. But recently, Andrew Lincoln had just said, now this article is from IGN, but literally everywhere is reporting this. The Walking Dead star Andrew Lincoln admits brutal death of beloved character was a little much, and the beloved character, of course, is Glenn. The Walking Dead star Andrew Lincoln thinks the brutal death of beloved character Glenn may have been a little too much. Speaking to Empire, Lincoln said that the Walking Dead team may have over-egged the omelet with that particular death, which came across a touch more gruesome than the myriad other featured in the zombie show. Glenn was a fan favorite character, but not even he could escape the brutality of the show, which came in the premiere of season 7, used to make a point to Lincoln's. Jeez, I can't talk today. I can't talk ever. Lincoln's Rick Grimes, the new baddie Negan, killed Glenn with several bloody strikes to the head with a barbed wire baseball bat. Which, I mean, that's how it was in the comics. And now, this is the one thing I'll say, too. Was it brutal? It absolutely was. Did they go a little bit overboard? Maybe. I mean, but then people got to realize which show they're watching here. I'll talk about this later on as we get more into it. So I do still think Glenn's death may have been when we over-egged the omelet, Lincoln said. Maybe it was lingering too much. Filming it was among the most intense shooting nights I've ever been a part of, he added. So he kind of talks a little bit about like shooting it and stuff like that. And then they also just talk a little bit about the main Star series has now, or the main series has ended, but the franchise is far from over. Lincoln himself stars in one spinoff, The Ones Who Live, which of course was fantastic. The ending was a little rushed, but whatever. So yeah, that's his comments right there. And I see lots of people who are agreeing with him. I see lots of people who aren't agreeing with him. Do I agree with him? Not really, to be honest. I mean, like, this is just my opinion. I don't really agree with how that went about. I think what it is because, I mean, look, he's beloved character. Glenn was a beloved character in the show. Probably like one of the biggest fan favorites in the show. I mean, Daryl, of course, was always number one, but Glenn would be up there with Rick and Michonne and all them. But to me, I think it's because, I mean, we've seen lots of brutal deaths in the show from people who we, like, don't even know. We see some people just get torn apart and just get, mutilated in so many different ways, but we're not emotionally attached to them. And I think with Glenn, that is the problem with that, is because it was Glenn. Like, my God, we spent, how many years, like, 10 plus years loving Glenn, caring for Glenn, wanting him to survive, and then boom, he doesn't. It's just, that's also not just, is it realistic to that world? It's also, that's just the show. That's just what The Walking Dead is. Like, if there's no point, if you don't take those risks, then there's not really a point in the show. You know what I mean? Like, if you know that people are just going to make it and make it and make it, then it's kind of just meh. Like, you don't want it to just be, it might as well just be like a Disney show or something like that, or just or some, like, I don't know, like a funny little kids show where everybody just all is just buddy for, the whole time. And nobody ever dies. That's not the show that we're watching, though. That's the problem. That is not the show at all that we're watching. And I think it struck people too hard in the sense that, okay, they didn't just kill off a beloved character. It was also because it's someone who was so beloved, and watching him die in such brutal fashion. Like, let's see, Abraham, was anybody saying that about Abraham? I don't think many people were talking about that. They were more so just about Glenn. Now, I'm sure there were people out there who were saying that. And not that Abraham wasn't beloved. He was a fantastic character, but Glenn was from the beginning. Abraham wasn't there as long. So, I mean, we were mostly invested in him, but it's like Glenn was, some people would say the heart of the show. Very impactful death. So that's where I think it lies in with some people, where just seeing him die, like, not just die. If he had just died, do I think people still might have tuned out? I think maybe not. But I do think that I'm like, there's no doubt about it that once he died, that's when everything kind of started to go downhill. Rating wise, I mean, to me, I still enjoyed the show even after. The Carl death I will never ever understand that for the life of me, why they chose to do that. If anything, that would have killed the show right there. But so do I agree with his comments? Not particularly. I mean, was it a bit overboard? I guess maybe it was, but to me, it was necessary. I don't really think that in particular is what drove people away. I think it was also just, I mean, the show has been on for 7+ years. And I think the cliffhanger had a big part in that, where they left it at a cliffhanger. Who did he kill? And then we had to wait 6 months to find out who it was. And then they not just killed one person, they killed 2 people, one of them being the heart and soul of the show. So to me, I think it was perfect how they did it. Anybody who disagrees with me, that's fine. I just don't really see it that way. I just think that was meant to happen. It was very, very, very well done. And aside from some other factors, cliffhanger and all that, but I think overall, it's what needed to be done. I really, really do think so. And that's just the show we watch. I mean, not everybody's going to survive. Not everybody's going to make it. Not just Walking Dead, but I mean, like, other shows where we watch, like, Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, or, like Game of Thrones. Like, there's people die. That's just what it is. And if you're looking for a show where nobody dies, well, you might want to turn to, like, some sitcoms and stuff like that. Now, some people might ask me, because people I know personally, I tell them that I think Carl's death was the worst decision they made. And, what, because it was brutal or this and that, or because they killed up? Well, no, because he should not have died. That was the problem. The Walking Dead was always about his story, the way they were going to build up. That was a part from the comics that should not have been changed. The story was all about, the Grimes legacy. We don't really care as much about Judith as we do like Carl, who we watched grow up. So that, to me, I think is still the biggest mistake that they had ever made. I don't know why they did it. I've said that many times. I will defend that point for a long time. They should never, ever have made that decision to kill Carl. But to kill Glenn, yeah, it was necessary, in my opinion, just because of how important it was in the comics, how impactful it was, and how it drove the story forward. And the show had to do that too. Now, doing it in a comic book is different because you just draw it in. TV show, it looks real because it's, it's not actually real, but it looks real as hell. So I think that was also a part of it too. People want to see because it was in the comic books. And then once they saw it, it was like, holy shit, God, maybe I changed my mind. I take that back. I didn't want that to happen. But that's just the nature of the beast. That's just what we watch. That's just the show. People die. That's just how it is. If people didn't, then that wouldn't be the show. That wouldn't be The Walking Dead. So anyways, that's my thoughts on the comments. I'd love to hear everybody else and what they think. Did killing Glenn kill The Walking Dead? That's a big question. Did people stop after Carl? Did people stop after Rick left? Did people stop, I don't know, when Otis died? I don't know. Anyways, be sure to let me know your thoughts on that. And so our last discussion topic today is going to be about Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Now, I call this in my show notes, I put it, the mystery of Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Why is it a mystery? Because I don't know what the hell is going on with this movie. Here's something. So you go on Google News and just type in Pirates of the Caribbean 6, and there's so many weird things. So like they'll say, just people talking about what's happening with Pirates of the Caribbean reboot. And then they say Pirates of the Caribbean 6 given positive update by producer. So they're talking about both Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and the reboot. Now they've said, that there are two different films, but then sometimes they talk about it as they say, okay, no, the sixth film is going to be a reboot. And then they say that, so anyway, it's really, really confusing. So I thought what I'd do for this one is I would just go through the timeline and find out what the hell is going on with Pirates 6. Because now, look, do I want to see it happen? I don't know. I mean, I could do without. I mean, the last one, I mean, it was good, but there were lots of problems with it. I think the first one is still probably the best one. The first two are still the best two of the series. But yeah, it's like that trilogy is hard to top. You cannot beat that first trilogy. And then number 4 was great. I did enjoy number 4. It wasn't as good as the first 3, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. And then 5 was interesting. Yeah, it's really weird. Anyways, so do I want to see a 6th one? I think they could just call it quits. But if they're gonna make it, they're gonna make it, I guess. So here's this is on the Wikipedia page where it says future. They'll always put like sequel. This is what came next. But in this case here, where we haven't seen no sequels or nothing yet, it just says future. So on March 4th, 2017, this was a couple months before the 5th one came out. Joaquin Roning and Espen Sandberg, who were the directors of this one, they stated that Dead Men Tell No Tales was only the beginning of the final adventure, indicating that it would not be the last film of the franchise and that a 6th film would be released. Because, that was one thing, too. That came out shortly. I remember because the trailer. I still remember this because I was back in high school when this happened. This was like so anticipated for me and everybody, all my buddies. It said the trailer said the final adventure begins, and so it was like, oh shit, this is the end. And then they clarified, no, the final adventure begins. So didn't mean that this was going to be the last one and that they were going to do a 5th one. But then when you watch the 5th one, it looks like a definitive ending. So which isn't. Anyways, while the post-credits scene of Dead Men Tell No Tales involved a potential plot involving Davy Jones, who appears in some form while Will and Elizabeth sleep, the directors also hinted that it could be the beginning of the end or just a dream or nightmare. Which that was one thing I thought of. I mean, if Davy Jones is coming back, I mean, it's kind of would they want to do that? Like, it's kind of. I think he's fine dead. I wouldn't really want to see Davy Jones back if they did it. So I like to just think of that it's just a dream. Like, some people probably don't even see the post-credit scene. Some people were saying that they didn't even know anything about these post-credit scenes. In September 2017, producer Jerry Bruckheimer indicated that another Pirates sequel would be possible if Dead Men Tell No Tales did well in its home release. Now, here's the thing. The movie made lots of money at the box office. Was it a big step down from the other Pirates movies where they were getting 900 million, 1 billion? The last one made about 700 million, which, I mean, that's still fantastic. For a movie, that's great. But for a Pirates film, that's a big step down. That just shows not many people are as interested. So how it did in its home release, I don't really know. In October 2017, the sixth film was confirmed, and Kaya Scodelario, who was in the fifth one as Barbossa's daughter, stated that she was contracted to return. Shortly after, it was announced that Roning was being eyed to return to direct the sequel. By August 2018, the sixth film was still in development. The following month, Keira Knightley stated that she did not see herself returning for another installment due to the fact that she's a mother now and that the films take too long to shoot, which, I mean, that's fair. I mean, they got her back for Pirates 5 for not even 30 seconds of screen time, which it was great that they did that. But I mean, it's fine. It's a happy ending. We don't really want to ruin that. In October 2018, it was reported that Disney had been looking for ways to reboot the franchise, bringing on Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, though the producer Jerry Bruckheimer was expected to return. And then there's some stuff going on here about all the writers departed and new writers getting hired. However, in April 2022, in the midst of the trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which was like the trial heard around the world, Depp revealed that he had no intention of returning to the franchise, citing his strained relationship with Disney after they had removed him from the franchise before a verdict reached his case. Which, yeah, that was something that I did talk about. Which it's sad, but I mean, from his perspective, how do you come back from that? There's no really coming back from it. In February 2023, Orlando Bloom expressed interest in returning to the franchise in the sixth film. Knightley explained, they kind of talk. So basically, Knightley just explains, no, she's not coming back. And then in July 2023, it was reported that Depp had softened his stance and was willing to return to the franchise if it's the right project. Now, whether he will, that's, he's saying that. There's no nothing saying that he is going to have him back for sure. And then they kind of talk about the writer's strike. That all happened. In March 2024, Bruckheimer stated that the untitled sixth film will be a sequel. Despite this, 2 months later, Bruckheimer hoped to see Johnny Depp return. On May 20th, 2024, Bruckheimer provided further clarification of the series status. He confirmed that there were 2 different Pirates movies in production. The first is a sequel that he intends to produce with scriptwriter Jeff Nathanson, and Johnny Depp will return as Captain Jack Sparrow. And the second is the Margot Robbie-led film that will be penned by Christina Hodson. So it's really weird how this is all... So it's like 1 second they're saying that it is a prequel, or not prequel, it is a reboot, but then it's also still a sequel. So I'm like, what is it? So from what I'm gathering right here, I mean, this could change. Sounds like they're 2 different movies. That's what it sounds like, and I think Jerry Bruckheimer had to explain that. So what's the status on it? Are we going to see it? At this point, I don't think so. I like if I had to put if I had to bet, I would say I would bet $20 that we wouldn't see it. It just seems like, just with all the stuff that happened with Johnny Depp, and you don't want to do a Pirates movie without Johnny Depp. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. That's why I was kind of going through this article to kind of just figure out, like, okay, what the hell's going on? Is the movie happening? Is it not? Because they're talking about the reboot, and then they're talking about a sixth one, and then they're talking about both at the same time, and then they're talking about that the sequel is going to be a reboot. It's like, Jesus, just give us one straight answer. So Bruckheimer did clarify that. So that's how it currently stands. But knowing how this whole situation has gone, they're probably going to change it again. So anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. That's what we think. There's all these updates about Pirates 6, about whether we'll see it or not. I personally am going to stand by. I don't think we'll see it. I don't think we will see it. Now, I could be wrong. They might make it. But, if it's like contingent on Johnny Depp returning because people are pretty insistent on if you're not doing Pirates with if Johnny Depp's not in it, then we're not in it, kind of thing. Like, we're not gonna watch it. If that's the case, then it's like, okay, well, you're not gonna do it then. This movie's not happening. But anyways, yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. I want to hear everybody else's thoughts. Is Pirates 6 gonna happen? I'm gonna say no. But that could change. It's just because, like, this is kind of going into development hell, and that's how a lot of these movies turn out. It's been like 7 years since it happened. Actually, Pirates 5 happened, or Pirates 5 released 2 weeks before I graduated, which was 7 years ago. So, yeah, that's how I keep track of them now, just by how long I graduated. So it's crazy. Maybe when it comes out, it'll be for a 10-year reunion. God only knows. But anyways, guys, be sure to let me know your thoughts on that and whether we'll see a Part 6. And that will do it for the podcast today. I want to thank my guest, Flobo Boyce. Be sure to check out his new, or stay tuned for his new comic book series, First Place Losers, coming in August. And thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoy the O'Donoghue's improv for the Terrified tonight. I'm super excited to see it. And, break legs to anybody who's involved that's listening to this. Can't wait to see it. And people who are listening who are going to watch it, I can't wait to see you there. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys all next week for next week's episode. But until then, this is Franky signing off. Have a great weekend, everybody, and have a great week. Have both. Have a great weekend and a great week.